Thank you, Colonel Powell, for that introduction. Now let's take a look at what you can see in the museum. The museum is sectioned by eras of history, focusing on the Civil War period of the 1860s through the 21st century. There is a specific intent to display items with an Oklahoma connection. When you entered the museum, you encountered an American Continental soldier in full battle uniform. This is just one of the many authentic uniforms worn by Americans throughout our nation's history. You may have also noticed a complete dress gray cadet captain's uniform and a very rare black ostrich-feathered helmet, referred to by the cadets of the United States Military Academy at West Point, New York, as a tar bucket. This rare uniform and the other West Point items on display were worn by Cadet Captain Brian Wheeler of Tulsa, an honor graduate of the class of 1990. He was destined to serve 2 combat tours in Somalia, East Africa, and was one of the first American officers to enter Babylon and Baghdad during the liberation of Iraq. The long hallway is filled with rare prints and informative posters depicting conflicts and special events in American military history. When you enter the South Exhibit Hall on your left, you begin to see the first of many exhibits, starting with the American Civil War and continuing through the Indian campaigns on the western frontier, the Spanish-American War, World War I, and World War II. As just one of the unique items on display in the Civil War section, look for the original keys to the officers' barracks at Fort Gibson, the first U.S. Army fort built west of the Mississippi in what was then Indian Territory. The World War I section has a unique Oklahoma flavor with this ambulance driver's uniform. It was actually worn by a Tulsa soldier during what his generation called the Great War. World War II fills the remaining hall with a myriad of unique and interesting items. Look for the original 45th Infantry Division swastika shoulder patch that was worn from 1923 until 1940, an original American Indian design for good luck. It was replaced by the red and gold Thunderbird due to the rise of the Nazi Party in Germany, and an original pen and ink drawing of the attack by Oklahoma's Thunderbirds when they overran the brick factory at Anzio, Italy in January 1944. This original sketch was drawn by Oklahoma war hero and internationally famous Pawnee Indian artist Emmett Brummett Echohawk, who featured himself with his rifle and bayonet because he was actually there. Before you cross the hall, you might want to go down the short hallway and view the Matt Bridwell model display. During his life, Mr. Bridwell built over 130 scale models of immaculate precision. It's one of the finest model collections in the United States. Returning to the long hall, you will pass the museum's library. It contains thousands of books, journals, documents, and maps. Upon entering the hallway on the north side, you will enter the display dedicated to the Korean War, Vietnam, the Cold War, and ongoing conflicts. The Korean display features the uniform of Colonel John Hillman, a veteran of World War II and Korea, and member of the 45th Infantry Division's Thunderbirds, a distinguished officer and war hero. The highway from Okmulgee to Henrietta is named after Colonel Hillman. The Vietnam display features a communist POW tiger cage in which American prisoners were beaten and starved, along with the story of one of the heroic POWs who was tortured and finally killed by the Viet Cong. Look for the story of one of the Sky Soldiers, chronicled by Lieutenant General Hal Moore in his book, We Were Soldiers Once and Young. The Cold War display features authentic Russian Army uniforms and badges of the former Soviet Communist Empire, as well as civil defense items intended for American school children to be used in the event of a nuclear attack. Our modern section features items from both Afghanistan and Iraq. The ceremonial guard uniform was worn by elite Afghan soldiers in the presidential palace and capital of Kabul during the Afghan War. The Republican Guard uniform belonged to a former staff field marshal on Saddam Hussein's personal presidential staff, who was captured on the day Baghdad fell. You will see the U.S. chocolate ship uniforms used only during Operation Desert Storm, as well as the new multi-cam U.S. field uniforms being used in current conflicts. Finally, the last wall features items from Oklahomans in all of the armed forces. There are many, ranging from those used by Oklahomans who participated in training deployments to Germany during the Cold War, to a copy of the Articles of Surrender that was presented to the Japanese to sign and end World War II. These articles were drawn up by Tulsa native Dallas Meade, who was a calligrapher on the battleship USS Missouri. As your tour ends, be sure to stop by the museum's store, where you may wish to purchase some items to remember your visit. We are a non-profit museum, and all your support and contributions are very much appreciated by our staff and volunteers.